Hello, it's Maryon Stewart, and I'm back to answer your questions again today. It's been a hectic few days, as lots of you know that my daughter had a little baby boy yesterday, which was a very joyous occasion, and I've just been sorting out the house, ready for them to come back, and they're due back a bit later on this afternoon, so I thought I'd take a bit of time and have a sit down and answer some of your questions. Marie's been gathering them for me, so I've got some of them ready. And if you've got more, then please keep sending them in. I'll have a look. I'll check the group before I finish today, if I can get through them all. So let's get going, and I'm just going to read them out and give you the answers. So before I forget, I saw that Kim McShane had asked a question just as I came on and I was getting ready, and her question was about cravings. So if I don't get through that, I'll end off with that, and I'll go back in the group and have a look for hers. So let's have a look and see what we've got here. I'm not sure who sent this in, but she says, if I'm following your diet, ensuring I get the right level of isoflavones daily, but for some reason I can't due to a holiday or breakaway, where I cannot fully control what I eat, can I use Promensal temporarily and then stop it when I get back to the diet? Yes, the answer is yes, you can. You can use any isoflavone supplement that's been through properly conducted clinical trials, and you can use that. And what I tend to do is, a lot of my patients actually take Promensal anyway. They usually take it at night because that gives them 40 milligrams of isoflavones during the night. And then they usually manage the rest of the isoflavones through diet. So by having soya products or linseeds or combination, little and often throughout the day. Now, if you're going away on holiday, you can still take the linseeds with you, but sometimes it's a bit more difficult to get the soya products, although lots of hotels do have soy milk. So you could take phytosoya, for example, or Arco Pharma rather, the company, make a phytosoya product, which is 35 milligrams of isoflavones. And you can take one of those a day in place of what I call a phytofix. So that's the kind of way to do the holiday thing, to make sure you get, but you don't want to take any isoflavones at the same time as other isoflavones, because the estrogen receptor sites don't stay full for very long. So you need to top up little and often throughout the day. So hopefully that will help you. And you can get those through the shop as well. Everything in the shop gives you 10% discount if you enter the code Midlife Switch 2017. So you can have a look at that. Next one, I'm afraid Marie saved these for me, but she hasn't actually said who they're from, sadly. So this one is, I am on prescribed blood pressure medication. Should I be seeking approval from my doctor before taking the supplements? So the answer is no. You can take vitamins and minerals, and you can take all the supplements I'm recommending in my book, which are the scientifically based supplements, without having to get approval if you're on blood pressure medication. One of the bonuses about being on the program is that very often it lowers blood pressure. So lots of healthy eating and exercise and so on, and relaxation, all things that have been shown to help reduce your blood pressure. So there's no problem with that. Next one is, how long does perimenopause last? I feel I've been going downhill since I was 50. I'm 57 now and longing for this stage to pass. I have to limit what I do in order to cope. It would be great to hear what life is like after peri. I don't expect to feel 40 again, but I do hope it gets better. Thank you for this page. I don't feel alone anymore with my struggles. Well, perimenopause is meant to be 5 years around the time of the menopause, and it usually starts in your mid-40s leading up to the magic age of 51, which is the average time that you go through the menopause. Having said that, most people find it very difficult to distinguish between perimenopause and menopause, in that there is a fine line between them. Technically, you're menopausal for one day and then you become postmenopausal, and that day is when you haven't had a period for a year. So I'm not sure whether the person asking this question is saying she's carried on having periods till she's 57. I suspect she hasn't, in which case she's probably either menopausal or postmenopausal. So hopefully that helps. And as to the second part of the question, hoping that it's going to get better, well, it will get better if you take some steps to meet your needs and learn how to get yourself back into good shape. The programme shows that you can get your symptoms under control within 5 months, but you do need to do a whole range of things together. So it's exercise, relaxation, diet, making certain dietary changes, cutting things out of your diet that are going to impede the absorption of good nutrients, taking lots of naturally occurring estrogen, little and often throughout the day, and generally making sure you're doing all the good healthy things in your life and not many of the junky things that are either going to impede the absorption of good nutrients or just make you feel bad. So it's really a question of learning to meet your needs, and that's all outlined in the book and also in the film Get Fit for Midlife, which comes with the book. Next one is, this one's from Deborah Lister Yates. What amount of phytoestrogen-based product is recommended, and would this be a lifelong intake? Well, you can just use phytoestrogens in your diet if you are that way inclined and if you can help yourself through diet. If people are suffering severely to start with, then I try to get them to take some supplements as well, although really you're aiming to have 100 milligrams of isoflavones a day. So again, in the book there's a chart which gives you exactly how many isoflavones you've got per serving of the individual things, but it's really little and often. So if you do take supplements and you get yourself symptom free, then in the longer term you might very well manage to just control things with your diet and not supplements as well. Although having said that, there are sometimes when you really learn how to meet your body's needs, you tune in somehow to what I call body speak. So your body tells you what it likes and what it doesn't like. So you'll know when that time comes whether you need to take some supplements, and you'll know which dose makes you feel good. And what I tend to do with my patients is I get them to a certain point where they're symptom free, and then we do a maintenance plan which lasts for another few months, and then they go on to a long-term plan where they can manage by themselves, and by that time they're armed with the knowledge of how to keep themselves in good shape in the long term so that they can prevent things like osteoporosis, heart disease and dementia, which are all things that we're in danger of or more at risk of when our estrogen levels dry up. So it's really, really important. We're not just doing this to get over the symptoms. I don't mean just, because I appreciate that some of the symptoms are completely overwhelming and make you feel worse than you can ever imagine. But you've got to get over those symptoms and then get yourself post-menopause. And it isn't magic from then onwards, because years ago, let's say 100 years ago, we weren't living much past 50, as I said before in the other live session, and so it didn't really matter. But now, when we've got so many extra years, most of us, then those years really, the enjoyment that you get from those years really depend very much on how well you feel. And if you know how to keep yourself in good shape, if you like what you see in the mirror, if you feel sexy and sassy, then you're going to have much more fun in your life and much more fulfillment than if you're crippled with osteoporosis or you're dumbed down with dementia or you're scared stiff because you've got heart disease. So it's really, really important. This is like a crossroads in your life. When you've got the opportunity, most of you look at this as being a pain. That's something awful that happens to women at midlife. But you look at it another way. It's something that's brought you to this group. It's something that has drawn you to the information that will help you to stay healthy in the long term. It's going to help you get you back again, the you that you liked being. And so look at it as a plus point, really, that it's brought you here so that you can find out how to get yourself back into good shape again. I think that's really the way you should be framing it. Fiona Young says, Marion, I'm taking Promensil, have been for 2 months now, but still getting night sweats Would you suggest something else, feminescence at the same time, or an alternative? I think I answered this on the last film, and I did say yes, take some feminescence as well. It's a completely different kind of product. It's been through some very positive trials. It's shown to influence the hormone-producing glands in the body, and it really does help to take symptoms away. So you can definitely try that as well. You need to make sure you're getting plenty of isoflavones in your diet. You need to make sure you're doing at least half an hour of formal relaxation a day. And I mentioned last time that I really love the app, the Pazziz app, and or you can use any sort of relaxation CD or app that you fancy, but you just need to have that quiet time every day, because it has been shown to reduce flushes by between 50 and 60%, which is really, really significant. So just make sure you're doing all those things as well. Somebody's asked the question, can you let us know the difference between the varieties of magnesium and why in particular you recommend the variety you do? I don't really recommend one particular variety. There are different magnesiums. The one that I tend to use with my patients is Magazorb, and the reason I do that is because it's gentle on the gut and it seems to work really well. But any good brand of magnesium will do. There's another type of magnesium which you can get in the shop as well, which is a food state magnesium. And I'll post that afterwards actually, and so you can have a look at that as well, because you take less of that to get the same amount of benefit, and that's another way of doing it. And they're more natural somehow than the more synthetic products. So it's really a choice. It's a kind of suck it and see. But I tend to go for the standardized brands, which you'll see in the shop, rather than just the over-the-counter cheap stuff that you get, because you just never know what you're getting. Any recommendation for bad joint pain all over? I feel like a 90-year-old. Again, I think I answered a joint question on the last one. There's tons of things that you can do for joints. First of all, you should be eating a wholesome diet with plenty of oily fish, things like mackerel, herring, salmon, pilchards or sardines. They contain essential fatty acids that helps with the joints. You've got glucosamine and chondroitin, which have been shown to help to re-lubricate the joints. Taking naturally occurring estrogen into your diet is going to make you feel better, because it puts back what time and nature have taken out, and it helps to fool the brain to thinking that your biological clock has been turned back again. So there are all sorts of other products as well. There's a glucosamine complex product in the shop which contains MSM and ginger and rosehip. And so you've got all sorts of different things that you can try. There are other things for joints as well, but there's lots of things that you can do for joints, including sometimes avoiding certain products like dairy products and wheat-based products, but it really does depend on each individual to see what's happening. So I'd start with a few things first of all, maybe just making your diet more healthy, more naturally occurring estrogen, more oily fish, and maybe taking some glucosamine and chondroitin and some fish oils, and see how you get on. And then if you need to fine tune it because you're still not feeling great, then you can always come and get some one-to-one help, or you could read something that's specifically about joint health, and I could probably point you to that. I did a whole TV series on joint health as well, so I will be posting that in the new membership site when that gets up and running. Somebody's asked the question, what do you recommend to get a good night's sleep? Well, there's just so many things for that. Again, one of the reasons why you're not sleeping very often is because of the falling levels of estrogen and the fact that you've got hot flushes in the night sweats. So that tends to wake you up. Another thing that wakes you up is that the bladder tells you need to pee a lot in the night, and that usually happens because you've got low levels of estrogen, and that tends to reduce the number of cells that make the lining of the bladder, the vagina, the urethra, and so on. So you need to actually beef those up as well. So I'd say really having a wholesome diet, taking out the stimulants like chocolate and caffeine in particular, because that can wreck your night's sleep. Calm down the flushing by doing exercise, just gentle exercise, lots of relaxation every day so that you're feeling better for that. And then taking, maybe you can take some valerian in the night, which helps to make you feel calm. Or depending on if you're feeling stressed, there are some herbs that you can take which help you to sleep. So it's just really a question of, if it's the flushing making you feel bad and you can't sleep, that's the thing to deal with first of all. If it's much more complicated than that, the Pizziz has a sleep app which you can use. Paul McKenna wrote a book called I Can Make You Sleep, and I've got a whole raft of other things that you can do to address your sleep as well. So it's just a question of where you start. So somebody says, I'm new to this and would be so grateful for some direction. Well, the direction, I suppose, the general direction you'll find in the book, Beat Menopause a Natural Way. And there's also the accompanying film, Get Fit for Midlife. So you can download that. If you go to maryonstewart.com/book, you can download those. And after Easter, there's going to be a 14-day challenge, me challenging you to get well and give yourself permission to actually follow this so that you actually get back into the driving seat and reclaim your well-being. So that's, I suppose, my general recommendations, because they're all encapsulated in the book and the film. Next one is, I was going to write it for Sunday's session but had bad flu. Okay, I love the natural approach for all things, but unfortunately it doesn't help my history of depression and anxiety, which is wildly affected by hormone swings. I've been on antidepressants for many years. When menopause symptoms kicked in, that got so much worse. I started 1 milligram of estrogen gel and coil, which worked at first, then all the symptoms got stronger, so the doctor put me on 1.5. Well, I deal with anxiety and depression all the time, and I never use HRT for that, and I never use antidepressants. There are so many things that you can do. There are so many good herbs. There's St. John's wort that helps. In Germany, the doctors more commonly prescribe St. John's wort than they do antidepressants for depression. There are all sorts of things that you can do to improve your mood. And it's just not something that I feel needs to be medicated. So if you follow the program, in the book I've talked about anxiety and depression, that I've got supplements on the grid that have been shown to work for those things. So there's plenty that you can do without having to increase the amount of HRT, because you're not supposed to be taking HRT in the long term now. And it's really important that you find something that you can use for the longer term. Because let's imagine you go into menopause, you start perimenopause at, let's say, 46. The average age of menopause is 51. So if you start HRT when you're perimenopausal, by the time you get to menopause, then you can't take it anymore. You really shouldn't be taking it in the long term. And you certainly shouldn't be raising the dose, because there are so many risks associated with it. There's a whole review on HRT in my new book, chapter 4, which I did in conjunction with 2 HRT experts. So I would, if you're taking HRT or you're thinking about it, I'd really encourage you to read that chapter, and then you can make some wise and informed choices. You've got tons of things at your disposal that you can use apart from that, and it's just getting yourself familiar. And again, if you need some one-to-one help, then just get in touch and we can help you with that. Okay, so the next one, I have begun weaning off HRT using feminescence. If successful, how long would you advise me to keep using feminescence? A year or more? Well, for a start, I don't think I would just use feminescence for weaning off HRT. So my patients who are weaning off HRT, I absolutely throw everything at them. So they're doing diet, exercise, supplements, relaxation, where they've got several different supplements that they're taking, including feminescence. And I keep them on the HRT for a couple of months, and then we reduce the dose gradually. And it's not a race, so we just do it at their own pace. And what tends to happen is, when you introduce all the things I'm talking about and you've got naturally occurring estrogen in your diet, it fills the estrogen receptor sites, and you can fool the brain into thinking that you've got normal circulating estrogen again. And Mother Nature is so clever. What happens is that the naturally occurring estrogen competes successfully for the receptor sites. So what that means is, if you imagine it's a sack race and you've got naturally occurring estrogen in one lane and you've got estrogen from HRT in another lane, the naturally occurring estrogen is going to win the race, jump into the receptor sites and seal it off. So by the time the HRT gets there, it's all too late and you're just going to excrete it. So what tends to happen is we're making the HRT redundant. So after a period of time, you don't need the HRT anymore. So what we tend to do is just reduce the dose. I don't just take it away, but we just reduce the dose over time, and the brain doesn't think that you're doing anything special. So it doesn't start to give you the hot flushes again, which is simply the brain trying to kickstart the ovaries back into function, because it's very satisfied with the naturally occurring estrogen that you're taking. So it's really important to learn how to manage this life stage, and if you want to come off the HRT, how to wean off it properly. So I think that's the last of the questions on here, but I'm going to, there's some more questions that have come up on the side panel here, so I'll just have a look at those, and then I'm going to go back into the group and see if I can find some other questions, because I know there are more. So let's see what we've got here. Sarah VJ Powell says, I'm sure I'm perimenopausal, but had a blood test. It doesn't show menopause symptoms yet. Can I still be perimenopausal? Yeah, it's actually really hard to measure hormones, and they do the follicle stimulating hormone test. So usually that's very low before the menopause, and during the menopause it gets elevated. So it goes from a really low level up to about 80 or something, and then it can kind of drop down again. But sometimes you feel perimenopausal and it doesn't really reflect on that test. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think the sooner you get yourself into really good shape, the sooner you prepare yourself for menopause and you start to learn to meet your nutrient needs, you start to put naturally occurring estrogen into your diet. If you're not having really severe symptoms, then you probably won't need to have 100 milligrams of isoflavones a day. You may only need to have 50. If you're perimenopausal. It depends what's going on in your body. But start preparing yourself, get yourself, tune in and just meet your body's needs, get yourself into good shape, and you'll just sail through the menopause. You won't have major problems. You'll have to increase the isoflavones at the time of the menopause. You may need some different supplements to address different symptoms that come on, but you will have a much easier time than if you wait until you're in the full flow of all these awful symptoms and you then have to deal with that rather than deal with it before it actually escalates. So I would definitely say that that's the way to travel. Let's see if there's anybody else. Okay, Kim, I'm going to answer yours now because I remember your question. She said something like, I know there isn't a magic cure for cravings, but what would you suggest we did? And I think I did answer that in the last film as well, but I'll answer it again now. So what tends to happen with cravings? I wrote a whole book on cravings, and we did loads of research on women of childbearing age with cravings, because about 80% or more of women get cravings for chocolate before their period in that phase. And you might remember going and having tons of chocolate. I have lots of patients who have 6 bars of chocolate a day, some even more. But just thinking about chocolate and sweet food all the time and being obsessed about it to the point where you'd steal the kids' Easter eggs or go out after dark to the garage to get some chocolate because you can't bear the cravings. So what tends to happen is low levels of magnesium, B vitamins, and the trace mineral chromium are all necessary for normal blood glucose control. And when you're going through those childbearing years and you've had babies and breastfed, usually your levels get very low. And so you need to build them up again. So we use as a product called Chromium Complex, which you can get in the shop, which is full of those things. Just need to take one a day for a couple of months, and it will help the flushes to diminish. At the same time, you need to eat wholesome food little and often, and you need to make sure you've got plenty of intrinsically sweet snacks so that you don't rely on chocolate and junky things. So you can still have nice things, you can still have wholesome cakes. I've got lots of recipes in my books, and I've got lots of snack options in my books as well. And there's plenty that you can eat, and it's just breaking that awful nightmarish craving. And the chromium, magnesium and B vitamins will help you to do that. And also if you eat a diet rich in those things as well. So I'm about to, I think the new book is nearly ready to be updated. So everybody who's got the book will get the updated version, and in there we'll have the nutritional content of food lists as well as everything you've already got. So I'm just adding those in. Let's have a look. See, there's another one here from Tanya. Tanya says, I'm 49, had blood tests, says I am menopausal, got loads of symptoms. I really don't feel myself. My doctor won't give me HRT because of breast cancer in my family. I don't know what to take and what symptoms to tackle first. Well, Tanya, I don't think you need to divide the symptoms up. I think what happens with my program is it addresses all the symptoms, because what's happening at the time of the menopause is you've got low levels of important nutrients, and that affects the brain chemistry and stops the brain chemistry from acting normally. And you've also got falling levels of estrogen, and that makes it really tricky for you to function normally. And it makes it difficult for the brain to understand that your ovaries are no longer functioning. So what you need to do, in fact, probably you need to read the book and watch the film, because that would tell you, if you watch the film in an hour and a half, you'll know exactly what to do, because I explain it in a step-by-step way and exactly what you need to take in your diet and supplements and everything that is involved in the program. But essentially, you need to be having a nutrient-dense diet, so eating little and often, wholesome food. You need to cut out the foods that are likely to impede the absorption of good nutrients. So you've got, for example, tannin in tea, and red wine will lock onto nutrients. Alcohol tends to bring on flushes, but it also knocks most nutrients sideways. You've got plenty of nutrient-dense foods that you can include into your diet, and also the naturally occurring estrogen. So it's really important that you take naturally occurring estrogen into your diet little and often. That's the diet side of it. Then there are supplements, and again, in the book and in the film, I talk about all the supplements that are scientifically based, so you can try some of the multivitamins and minerals which help to get your nutrients back into an optimum range. So we tend to use Fema 45 plus, and then there are other things like Promensal, Feminescence, all sorts of other things that you can use to help to control the flushing. So it depends which symptoms are the worst. If you're depressed, for example, there are other groups of symptoms you can use. If you're anxious, there are other. But again, there's a grid in the book, and you can look at it and you can self-assess which ones you feel would be best for you to take to start with. So I think that, and as I said before, doing relaxation every day for at least half an hour is so beneficial. It's been shown to reduce the flushes so significantly, and it helps you to relax, it helps you to de-stress, it helps you to feel calmer. And that's so important at this life stage. And it also helps, as I said before, to control the flushes and the night sweats. So that's what I would do. And if you're really desperate, you can fill in one of my questionnaires and diet diaries, and you can have some personal help. I work with patients on a one-to-one basis as well, and I do literally hold their hand. I tailor the program for them. We have consultations every 2 weeks, and I get them to the point where they're symptom-free, and then I put them on a maintenance plan so they know exactly how to manage this life stage, and then they're armed with the knowledge going forward to help them stay in the driving seat. So it's your choice. There's plenty of information out there for self-help, and I'm going to be enhancing that with the 14-day challenge, and there's also some one-to-one help if you're feeling that you can't manage. Sometimes you feel too confused and too desperate to even focus on a film or a book. And I understand that, even though the book is magazine style and it's easy to read and it's in bite-sized chunks, sometimes it can just be too hard and you do need some extra help. So hopefully that helps you. Kim is saying, sorry bringing you back to this. I'm taking Fema, started chromium. Do I need to take magnesium capsules too, or is there enough magnesium in Fema? Well, it just depends. I tend to, because magnesium is the most common deficiency in women, I try and give them as much magnesium as they can tolerate. And you know when you've got too much magnesium because it makes you have diarrhea. So your motions get really loose. Now that's okay. You can take more. If you tend to be constipated, then you can take more magnesium than people who tend to have loose bowels. So it's really, again, a suck it and see operation to find out what works for you. If you're taking Fema, you've got some chromium in there, so I wouldn't take chromium complex, I'd just take chromium picolinate, which you can get through the shop as well. If you're not taking Fema, then you could just take the chromium complex if you're self-helping, because I don't want you to take too much of anything, so hopefully that helps you. Okay, so now just bear with me for a minute, because I'm just going to go into the group on my iPad, and I will see if I can... I've just got to get else has come up. If you've got more questions, just keep pinning them up because I will see them. Okay, let's see what we've got here. So this is Maria Green says, I was taking venlafaxine and tapered off slowly, took because of menopause. The weight gain is unreal, hence since coming off it, I'm down the natural route using Fema 45 Plus and it's been a lifesaver. Well, that's great. It doesn't take the place of venlafaxine. If you're off the venlafaxine, you might want to take some St. John's wort as well if you're still feeling depressed. And there are quite a few foods that you can do to raise your mood, and exercise will too. So there's lots of different things that you can do. Let's see what we've got here. So Susan Ann Winters Daly says, I've been on HRT 9 months, but today's test shows my blood pressure is high, so I should be taken off the HRT. It's been a godsend. Since taking it, I've had more energy, better concentration, less hot flushes. So what can I expect to happen to me if I just stop now after 9 months? I've taken Sage for hot flushes, but I'm really concerned about memory when I'm at work. Help. Well, first of all, I wouldn't suggest anyone comes off HRT suddenly unless you really have to. If your blood pressure is high, then your doctor may say you've got to come off it suddenly. Sorry, I just need to find my drink and have a sip. Very dry. You could definitely get more energy naturally without HRT by having a wholesome diet, making sure your nutrients are in optimum range and doing some exercise. But again, for you, Susan, I would definitely make sure you do everything. So follow every single aspect of the program. So you're doing everything you can for your diet, everything you can in terms of supplements, relaxation and exercise, and you'll feel good. You won't need to take the medication. You just don't need to. You can feel good naturally. Kim has another question here. Oh no, this is the one about the cravings. Okay, so I've done that. So let's just go through and see if there's any more I can find. So Lisa says, I've been swimming for 6 months, 50 lengths most days, watching what I eat, and I'm taking Fema 45 plus. Haven't lost a pound in weight, so have done my first visit to gym today, and I now feel sweaty, fat and deflated as I couldn't complete the routine they had written for me. I give up. Okay, don't give up, Lisa. Sometimes there are things that you need to do. I don't know enough about your situation. I would, if you were one of my patients, I would probably be taking you off certain foods, particularly wheat and bran, and maybe some other foods, because sometimes they retain the fluid and stop you losing weight. I would be probably controlling your portion sizes and seeing if that works. And there are other things that you can do to speed up your metabolic rate naturally because what tends to happen as we get older is very often our metabolism slows right down. So whereas you're eating your normal diet, which would have just maintained your weight in days gone by, now it can make you feel, it can just be too much and just make you gain weight. So it's really important to tailor your diet to your needs, and you may have to reduce your portion sizes a bit to tip the scales back the other way. I've never known anybody not lose weight on the program who needed to lose weight. We always tailor it so people lose weight naturally. So I don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up. Swimming is wonderful exercise. Going to the gym is 2, or anything, dancing, whatever you do, if you can do some aerobic exercise every day, or at least 5 times a week, that would be good. But you don't need to get obsessive about the exercise, you just need to get your diet right as well. So Lauren B says, I'm 40 next week, have been having horrid perimenopause symptoms 2 to 3 weeks a month. At least half of each cycle I have severe night sweats, adrenaline surges waking me up all night, crazy nightmares, day sweats, overheated in a cool room during the day, non-emotional anxiety keeping me from focusing on being productive, brain-like ADD or total mush, so many headaches, so much diarrhea. Yes, I've had GI scopes and testing tons. This is cyclical. I'm exhausted from all of this. I smell like sweat 24/7. I don't feel human anymore. I walked out of an appointment today because they weren't running any AC, and after a week of being overheated and sweating, I just couldn't take it anymore. What natural things can I do? I'm already on a careful diet and a bunch of supplements. Had anaphylaxis to estrogen. Well, it's hard to advise you exactly because I don't know. You say you're on a careful diet and supplements, but I obviously don't know which ones. And you may not be on the right supplements, and the careful diet may not contain naturally occurring estrogen, and certainly enough naturally occurring estrogen to fool the brain into thinking you've got normal circulating estrogen again. So I think those are the things that I would do. I'd watch the film, just watch the film Get Fit for Midlife, because I explain it all in there, exactly what you need to do. And then you've got the book as a backup with the chapters that you can self-assess, and you can go to the supplement chart and choose the things that have been through properly conducted trials. Or if you want, I can write a program for you. You can have some helps. But you certainly do not need to go on suffering. And you don't need to be sweaty and smelly, because you can turn off those flushes in the space of a few months. And they never need to come back again if you know exactly how to meet your needs. So that's important. Belinda Sanson-Bosket says, can anyone recommend something for puffy under eyes, please? I've tried expensive eye creams, and concealer enhances the lines and puffiness even more. Not sure if this is related to being peri or just age-related. Any suggestions, home remedies, would be gratefully received. Thanks, ladies. Well, there are some home remedies. I mean, you can try putting some cucumber over your eyes, or tea bags when you're doing your relaxation. So obviously not dry tea bags, but wet tea bags. And that's supposed to help to take some of the puffiness out. There are all sorts of other things that you could Google that you could try. Sometimes you can get little masks with that you put in the freezer, and you can put that on your eyes as well, and that helps. But sometimes that puffiness is related to diet, and sometimes it's just a sign that you're retaining fluid, and that could be because you've got low levels of important nutrients and the brain chemistry is not working properly, and so you're having a chemical reaction to certain foods and drinks. So you could try coming off wheat and bran again, maybe some other foods. I have a book called The Real Life Diet, which is an exclusion diet, which you can follow for 4 weeks. And you can put the naturally occurring estrogen into that regime as well. And that will help you to know whether your eye puffiness is related to your diet. And if it is, then you need to obviously deal with it accordingly. So hopefully that will help you. Andrea Clark says, does anyone still get signs of a period even though they don't appear? I get really sore boobs, a really upset tummy, lower back and tummy ache, but never any period. This happens every 3 weeks or so on top of all the other crappy symptoms, and I'm even more tired than I usually am, if this is possible. Actually beyond fed up at this point now. Well, that's understandable. Yes, it is incredibly common to have cyclic symptoms, because for the first year or two, your body still thinks you're having a period. So you get the whole build-up, all the PMS, all the achy feelings in your back and your tummy and your abdomen and so on, and then guess what? No bleed comes, and you don't get the relief that you used to have when you had your period. So it's really important to learn to meet your needs again, so that you can actually stop those symptoms, because you can stop them all. You don't need to have any of those symptoms whatsoever, but you've got to learn to become a detective, learn to find out what your body needs and learn to meet it. And that way, over a few months of diet, supplements, exercise and relaxation, symptoms just disappear. And you will feel so much better than you can remember, better than you ever thought you would feel. And it's just really important to get that knowledge so that you can get to that better place. Right, next one is Kim's. We've answered that. Okay, so Susan Atkinson says, morning ladies, I've been to get test results this morning as I was positive I was menopausal. I've ordered the Femma 45 Plus Day only to be told my hormones are fine, but I have an overactive thyroid which gives most of the same symptoms. This I didn't know. My question is, do I still take the Femma 45? I'm 43, thank you. Well, certainly from my perspective, because we've done so much research over the years and we found that very often women have got low levels of important nutrients. So for example, the things we found were in short supply were magnesium, B vitamins, iron, zinc, calcium and essential fatty acids. It's really important, especially if you've had a baby or two and you've done some breastfeeding. If you've got PMS, you should be on a multivitamin and mineral supplement, a really good strong one, to help to put the nutrients back into your body, and you should be on a wholesome diet. That's really important. And obviously, if you've got thyroid problems, you need to address that too. And before you do anything else, I would just be as healthy as you can. Learn to do some visioning to help to get yourself into a better place health-wise. Do some affirmations, plenty of exercise and relaxation, and just learn to meet your needs so that you can be as well as you can. And then if you've got residual symptoms, if you've got hot flushes, night sweats, depression, whatever it is, then those can be addressed. But I think that's the place that I would start with. So Paula Wright says, hello everyone, thanks for adding me. I've been reading a lot about everyone's experiences and have realised that I've been perimenopausal for a long time now, but have just brushed my symptoms off because my daughter has been poorly in and out of hospital for the last few years, and this continues today. I'm really sorry to hear that, Paula. I think that is just beyond stressful and doesn't help you at all. It just means that you have a more difficult situation because you've got that stress, ongoing stress in your life. More recently though, my periods have stopped again and the disturbed sleep pattern and hot moments have become so normal that I'm learning to live with those too. I do everything I should to stay sane, well, but having a forum like this is really helpful. Also, it's a subject my friends and I talk about too, so it feels like a natural phase. My mum died when I was 39, so I can't ask her. Thanks for sharing all the funny and the not so funny stuff. It helps. Well, that's really great because that's why partly why I set this community up, because I wanted women to be able to talk to each other and know that they weren't alone and that they weren't the only ones suffering and in isolation. So I think that's really important. So if your mum your mum died at 39, you've got absolutely no idea when her menopause would have been. And that's also very sad and very premature. So you've had a lot of things to deal with. I would say that it's just really important. You don't have to, you say in your note here that you've got disturbed sleep and hot moments have become so normal that you're learning to live with them. Well, you don't need to learn to live with them. You can actually get them under control. And that's the important thing that you can take away from this. You've got to learn how to meet your needs. You have got the ongoing stress in your life, so you may be needing to do some extra things to address that. Obviously, you're not in control with that particular situation, and you have to just deal with it. But there are some herbs like rhodiola, for example, that help us to deal. They're adaptogenic herbs, so they help us to adapt to stress. So that's really important too. And there are lots of nice things that you can do for yourself, including relaxation. So you've got to get yourself really strong so that you can deal with your menopause and be a constant support to your daughter. So hopefully that helps you. There's lots of information in the book and the film. I'll post the links to those again after this session so that you can go for that if you want to. Let's see where we go next. Julie Richardson says these hot flushes are horrendous. First time ever. I'm dreading the summer. Well, that does make things even worse, and obviously it's something that I'm planning to address, because when the weather's hot it makes us struggle even more. So you've got a few months before the real hot weather starts probably, so you've got time to actually get your flushes under control, and there's no time like the present. You need to take this moment to make the commitment that you're going to do everything possible to get yourself into really good shape. And it is possible. You've got everything going for you now. There's no more guesswork. There's all the information in the book and the film. And I'm going to be doing this 14-day challenge after Easter, which will help you to understand exactly how to implement the program and make it work for you. So, and that's going to be included for all the people who've got the book and the film. So it's really, really possible, and you just don't need to sit there suffering anymore. So hopefully that will cheer you up a bit. Louisa James says, can any other ladies tell me if they have developed stomach problems since the menopause? I seem to have developed IBS and severe heartburn on and off. It's more on at the moment. It's horrible. So I haven't looked at that thread. There's 56 comments, so I'm sure you've had quite a few people talking about their experience. I have done a lot of work. I wrote a book on IBS quite some years ago and have dealt with it in our clinics for many, many years. And it does tend to get triggered when we're stressed, and it can get triggered when you've got low levels of nutrients and your brain is struggling to function normally. And so when you eat certain foods and drinks, it thinks you've had a toxin, and you get a chemical reaction in your body that sends fluid to try and flush out the toxin, and all sorts of things happen. You can get diarrhea, you can get constipation, the IBS, you can get pain, wind, bloating, all sorts of things. So there are lots of things that you can do. I would definitely try the modified exclusion diet in the Real Life Diet. You can order that through Amazon if it's not in my shop. You can also, there are supplements that you can take. So for example, maybe some probiotics, some acidophilus, you can take some digestive enzymes. You've got all of those different things in the shop, and you just need to, again, learn how to meet your needs so that you calm your digestion down. Relaxation helps enormously as well. There's plenty of research to show that people who are stressed have worse IBS. And obviously, because you're at this life stage, you need to learn to meet your needs at this life stage so that you get your estrogen levels up again, you get your nutrient levels up again, and the IBS will disappear. I mean, I've had so many patients with IBS over the years, and we just get the symptoms under control. Again, it takes a few months, but it's not any longer than that. And once you know how to meet your needs, and also once you're in better nutritional shape, your brain doesn't have do these chemical reactions because it thinks you're in better shape. So you can then go back onto eating some of the things that you've taken out and not have the symptoms anymore. There's tons of things that you can do. So please don't think that IBS is a given at this life stage. Sarah Senior says, thanks for letting me join the group. I'm in my mid-40s. I went into early menopause in my mid-30s and went on to HRT. I had a period of remission for several years. Then my period stopped again about 3 or 4 years ago, and I went back onto the HRT. I am mindful that in the not too distant future, I will come off the HRT, so I want to be able to support my body as naturally as possible at this stage. Well, again, Sarah, if you're just tuning in, I would probably suggest that you start from the beginning of this, because I did explain on this and also on the other live session a bit about what you need to do to actually get your symptoms under control. I wouldn't suggest you come off the HRT suddenly. I'd wean off it. There's a chapter in the book on weaning off HRT, which explains how to do it. There's a chapter in the film on weaning off HRT, and I tend to do it gradually. But at the same time, get yourself established on the natural approach so that you're having all the isoflavones, you've got your nutrient levels back into an optimum range, and that you're doing the relaxation particularly, because that helps keep the flushes at bay. And then you wean off the HRT gradually and you'll just feel fine. You'll feel fine, you won't notice the HRT is gone, and you will also feel better than you can remember. And don't forget also that HRT is only aiming at certain symptoms at best. In fact, if you get the book, you'll have a look. Chapter 4 is the review of HRT. So you'll see all the pros and cons about HRT. You're right, you can't take it in the long term. So it's really important that you find an alternative and just learn how to meet your needs so that you can actually get yourself off the HRT. And you've got to look after yourself and protect yourself from heart disease and bone loss and dementia in the long term anyway. So this is as good a time as any to get started. So I would suggest you definitely go for that. So how are we doing for time? Let's take a few more. Please can someone kindly tell me which is the best site to buy Firma 45 Plus? Please, not Amazon as they're too expensive. Well, the one we use is the Revital one, which is through the shop on my website, maryonstewart.com/shop. And I've negotiated 10% discount for all members on any products you buy from the shop. They don't charge any postage and they post the same day. So I found that is the consistently cheapest place to get it. So hopefully that will help you. I think I've answered the others. So let's see if there's any more on here. Anything else anyone wants to ask me? Catherine Rees says, hi Marianne, had almost every symptom possible, had to go on HRT as quality of my life was awful, even though my mum died of breast cancer 25 years ago at 41. I'm feeling better on Firma 45, which has been great for me, like my security blanket. On Slimming Well, doing well, I think. Do you think I should wean myself off HRT? Many thanks, Catherine. The answer is yes, I do, because you can't take it in the long term. Also, our studies show that on average, women gain 18 pounds on HRT in the first year. So by coming off the HRT, you stand a chance of losing weight without even having to carry on doing Slimming World. So I tend to find patients on my program lose weight without dieting anyway, but certainly the HRT won't make it easy for you to lose weight. So yes, I would. I'd be mindful that you need to wean off HRT gradually. So you need to do it, as I said before, little. If you're having patches, what I tend to do is get patients to cut bits of the patch out gradually. If you're having pills, then either to take them every other day or cut them in half or ask your doctor for a lower dose. But get yourself established on this program, not just the Firma 45, but you need to make sure you're doing everything, and particularly doing the relaxation as well as a wholesome diet, no stimulants, nothing that's going to make your flushes come back. You know, even sometimes if you have one sip of alcohol, it can bring on flushes. It doesn't mean this is a life sentence and that you can never have chocolate and alcohol again, but it's just for a few months while you get yourself sorted out, and then you can have your treats again within reason and not get any symptoms and feel fine. But you just need to concentrate and focus on getting yourself into really good shape in the short term. Allow yourself 3 to 5 months and you should be really seriously back in the driving seat. So hopefully that helps. Now, I don't know if anyone else has pinned a question that I can't see because I can only see certain things here. So if anyone has got another question and they want to post it, let's see. Can't see anything else. Noreen Jordan says, can I take magnesium in addition to Firma? Anxiety and tiredness, my main symptoms. Let's think. Yes is the answer. You can, as long as you don't have diarrhea. You can take as much magnesium as you need within reason. 900 milligrams is the maximum dose you can take unsupervised. You probably won't need anything like that. Most of the magnesium tablets contain 150 milligrams, so you may only need 1 or 2, and you've already got some magnesium in Firma. Tiredness, let's think. You need to adjust your diet, get yourself into really good shape. I don't know how old you are. You might need to get your iron stores measured, so that's serum ferritin, to ask your doctor if you've got low iron stores that will make you feel tired. Get your thyroid function measured. Are you stressed? Do you need to have your cortisol measured? If you're stressed, then there may be some things that you could take for that. Making sure you've got wholesome food, little and often, not lots of junky food that's going to send you to sleep. Sometimes wheaty food and brown can make you tired when you haven't got very good level of nutrients in your body. And anxiety, there's just so many things that you can do for that. There are, again, supplements, rhodiola, ashwagandha, holy basil are all things that help with that. Coming off caffeine and making sure that you do plenty of relaxation, affirmations, mindfulness. There's a whole program for people who are feeling anxious to control the anxiety. I've treated lots of patients over the years who've had phobias, agoraphobia, and all sorts of other panic attacks, palpitations and so on, and we just calm them right down so that they go completely. So you don't need to go on suffering with that. If you've got severe symptoms, it may be difficult for you to cope by yourself, and you may need some extra help and advice. So maybe look into that possibility. If you want to self-help, you can use the book and the film, and you can get those on maryonstewart.com/book, and that will take you straight to that link. So I will be back on again, and I'm going to be telling you more about the challenge. We're just getting that sorted out in the back room. I've had a pause for a couple of days because of the baby, and I'll post a picture that we took yesterday at the hospital with my new little grandson and my granddaughter as well. So very joyful times, and but I am still focusing on you, and my daughter's husband's on paternity leave for a couple of weeks, so they're going to want some time to themselves, so I shall be popping in and out to help them, and I'm staying very much on your case to help you get yourself symptom free. So keep your questions coming, and hopefully we'll be able to get that challenge started not too long after Easter, and I'll be giving you some more news about that soon. So thank you for joining me today. If you didn't join and you see this afterwards, I hope you find it beneficial, and I look forward to helping you on your recovery journey. Bye-bye.